This capstone will focus on social emotional instruction, specifically for trauma-impacted students. The topic of the research was the importance of implementing SEL instruction in schools with students who have experienced trauma. Social emotional instruction has become critical for students to be successful socially and academically. When these skills are lacking, students struggle and often cause disruptions to the learning environment. This topic is important to curriculum and instruction because when students engage in SEL programs, they can improve how they feel about themselves, which allows them to focus on their academics. This topic is also vital to the field of curriculum and instruction because when teachers have strong SEL understanding, they are better equipped to create supportive learning environments that promote growth in all of their students. The problem statement in this study was that social emotional instruction was not being utilized to its full potential. Teachers did not understand how to implement SEL strategies or why they are important to the classroom and their students. The impact of this problem can be seen through low student achievement levels and through teacher burnout. A possible cause is that teachers have not been provided with appropriate training. Teachers who are not prepared with trauma-informed practices have a higher chance of burning out and also ineffectively handling disruptions. The research question that was investigated throughout this study was how will professional development about social and emotional learning be created to address the problem of trauma-impacted students disrupting learning environments? The final product that was created was a professional development program. This included 4 hours of instructional time. There was a book study for the book called Lost at School by Ross Greene. There were 3 sessions that were included with this book study. There were discussion questions and also time for the participants to talk with each other and support each other. Another session was a professional development that focused solely on SEL instruction. The components were included as well as a deep dive into the second step curriculum. The method that was used was a qualitative approach that utilized open-ended surveys for the participants. This method was appropriate because the responses from the surveys provided specific data that was targeting the needs of each teacher. The data collection type was qualitative data because they were open-ended surveys. The surveys were sent after the participants had agreed to take part in the study. The first survey included sections where the participants were able to note their experiences with social emotional learning and with trauma-informed practices. The second survey focused on the content knowledge of both of these practices. To analyze the data, the responses were summarized and then put into categories for each response. The data allowed me to discover themes and target specific areas of need for each participant. The first question that the participants were asked was whether they had experienced teaching trauma-impacted students. Out of the 7 participants, every single one of them said that they had seen trauma-impacted students and had experienced teaching them. The second question was what had happened with a highly dysregulated student. The participants were asked to reflect on one specific incident that they had in their career, and each of the responses are as followed. Every participant noted that the student disrupted class. Only 3 out of the 7 participants noted that the student they thought of was aggressive. 5 out of the 7 participants noted that the student was unresponsive to attempts from the teacher to calm. And 4 out of 7 noted that the student had to be removed from the class either for their own safety or for the safety of the other children in the classroom. The participants were asked how they felt about implementing SEL at this current time. 42.9% noted that they felt slightly prepared, and 57.1% said that they did not feel prepared at all to implement SEL. The participants were also asked what SEL meant to them and to their teaching. 100% of the responses included that teaching SELs would help students with life skills and would also improve their teaching practices. Participants were asked what they thought would be the most helpful in a professional development opportunity. 57.1% explained that they wanted strategies to be modeled for them, and 42.9% said that they really wanted real-world examples to apply to their teaching. Participants were also asked what it meant to have a trauma-informed approach. Only 1 out of 7 explained that they thought to have a trauma-informed approach meant that they needed to understand their students' backgrounds. 7 out of 7 participants explained that they thought having a trauma-informed approach meant using strategies that are appropriate specifically for trauma-impacted students. 6 out of 7 of the participants explained that to have a trauma-informed approach, they need to understand that trauma impacts a person socially, physically, and emotionally. This also meant that they needed to see the signs in each of these areas and be able to interact appropriately. 2 out of the 7 participants explained that having a trauma-informed approach meant that they needed to recognize signs of trauma. The participants were also asked what the components of SEL were. 7 out of 7 explained that one of the components was teaching students to interact with each other. 6 out of 7 said that they needed to teach their students how to manage their behavior. And 4 out of 7 explained that teaching students to understand their emotions was a component of SEL. Participants were also asked how they believed that SEL could impact their classroom culture. 6 out of 7 thought that they could help their students make new friends or better friends with SEL instruction. 6 out of 7 also explained that they believed SEL could improve the classroom behavior. And 3 out of 7 explained that they thought that SEL could improve academic success in their students. The results and conclusion of this study are that the research question was answered through using this study. The professional development needed to include detailed explanations, real examples, and strategies for teachers to use. The training also should be ongoing and evolve as students do. What once was relevant might not work, so teachers must continue to learn and grow their practice. Teachers must understand how to interact with trauma-impacted students. And through utilizing SEL instruction to its fullest potential, teachers can decrease the amount of disruptions that occur from trauma-impacted students and also lessen their stress. A strength of the research was the in-depth literary review. This provided valuable information that was used to come to conclusions about the topic and the problem. There were plenty of recent sources that directly applied and provided a deeper understanding of the content. Another strength was the data collection and analysis. The Google Forms that were used were simple to administer, and the data that was gained from them was organized, which allowed me to analyze and compare the data successfully.
I don't know, but I found these results on search.
A weakness of this methodology was that no contradicting sources were found, which did not allow me to provide the other side of the argument. Some influential factors were that the studies were done by other people. So each study that was referenced was done by someone else, and I had to rely on results from those studies that related to my own. I also did not personally communicate with the authors, so the information may have been misinterpreted. Another influential factor was the length of the sources varied. Some of the sources were very long and in depth and included a lot of data to support their claims, which could possibly be seen as overwhelming, and also some of the information could have been lost. Further investigation is recommended for implementing SEL with a trauma-informed approach. These practices are usually seen and used separately. More investigation needs to be done on whether linking the practices can benefit students who are trauma impacted. Another area for further investigation would be to gather information about the students who are involved in these studies. Most of the sources focus on the adults' views, but by gathering data from students, the study would gain another perspective and be strengthened.